I'm Max Doolin, and I'm the founder of the Spokane Cyber Cup. This is the ROP challenge. For those who don't know, ROP stands for Return Oriented Programming. It's a really popular binary exploitation technique. If you've gone through the Buffer Overflow series, if I was going to make a sixth challenge, it would be a ROP one. The idea behind ROP, or Return Oriented Programming, is you have edited the address of the um, you've edited the return instruction pointer address. And by doing that, been able to hijack the control flow of the program. However, if NX is enabled, which means that you can't execute data on the stack and other locations that you've written to, then you need to have some way to bypass that. And that is where ROP comes into play, where you change the address of where you want to execute over and over again, and you have these little gadgets. So one gadget may be pop something on the stack into EX. The next gadget could be execute an interrupt, and after that you hit this ret, which then jumps to the address you want to go to. So this is called return-oriented programming because you keep going to that ret spot. And I found that learning return-oriented programming to get code execution was really complicated. So this is a good start to it. So instead of using binary exploitation methods, we're going to be doing this in JavaScript to try to learn that same flow. So I actually modeled this challenge based upon a challenge that was on Pwnable.kr called Horcruxes, where there's 7 Horcruxes, or 7 places in the code you need to jump to. So for the actual challenge, it says, can you call all 7 of the functions within the code? Some have parameters while some don't. The parameters go first in the input, it's a hint, and this feels like return-oriented programming. So if we go to the actual challenge, we can see here that we have a picture, some return-oriented programming, and then we have some input. And this input is actually what we're trying to do. So if we click execute with these 2 functions, you'll notice that it adds these numbers together, and it does this randomly. If we look at the code of what's going on, we can see that at the start of it, it's executing get random a bunch of times, and then at the end, it's adding them together. For the actual solution, the way that total or var1, var2, and so on get added is if you look at all these functions. So function 1 is going to do user total plus var1. Function 2 is going to do user total plus equals var2. It's going to do these up until function 7. So we need to call all of these functions just like we would in return-oriented programming. And the one twist to this is some of these have parameters, like this one. So how are these actually executed? It's a good question. It's going to take in our input that we have right here, and it's going to iterate over each item. If the item starts with func, then it will execute the function that way. So for instance, if we have no parameters, then it will, which is what storage.length equals 0, we'll just execute the function, no problems. But if there are parameters, such as 1 or 2, then it will attempt to execute said function. If it is not a function, then it will add it to the stack, which is just an array. And the push operator will add an element to the stack to the very end of the array. And when it executes it right here with the storage 1, this will be executed so that the most recently added element is the first parameter. So this is last in, first out, just like a stack is. So the easiest way to solve this challenge is to just add all these in here to start with. So we have 7 functions, so we're just going to add all these in first. And some of them won't work because they have parameters. So we can see that we missed function 3 and function 5, but all the other ones worked out good. If we go to function 3, we can see that there's a parameter that's expected. And this parameter is just a string that says ROP. Where does this actually go, though? If we look at the previous hint, we'll see that the parameters go first in the input. But we can also see that in the code itself. If we look here, it will take the storage and push an element to it. And then once we execute the function, it takes an element from storage and then it clears the storage. So we need to add the parameters first. So for function 3, we need to do ROP. Cool, so we executed this parameter correctly, which is perfect. And now we need to execute function 5 correctly. Function 5 is the tricky one, but I think we can explain it away. So function 5 needs to have two values, 1337 and this hex value. In terms of the ordering of it, you could just try both of them, but if you want to get this correct, we are adding to the end of the list, and then we are putting the element first. So it's the last one on, is the last one that's added is the first one that should be there. So storage 1 is going to be parameter 1, which is going to be 1337. Which should be the second thing that's added because it's going to be put on at the end because it's storage 1. We're adding to the end of the list. So this should go first. And this one should go second. Cool. So we did these in the right order, and now we've executed all the functions with the correct parameters. And this is a really cool introductory section to ROP. Instead of having to worry about finding the gadgets and worry about how to get code execution, you can just take this principle of let's have these little gadgets in code, and they're just execute these functions to add the numbers together. And let's have the proper parameters in a stack-like manner, and it just works. So this is the ROP challenge from the Spokane Cyber Cup 5. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.